many bottles?
What day is it today?
It's Thursday. What are we going to do today?
We're going to the shops. We usually go shopping on Tuesdays and Fridays, but we must do some shopping today as well because we want to buy a lot of things for the party.
Shall I come with you?
Yes, please do. Well, first we must make a shopping list. There's enough sugar and butter, Barbara, isn't there?
There's a lot of sugar, but there isn't much butter.
Yes, there's very little butter.
Then we needn't buy any sugar. How much butter must we get?
Not very much.
Only a little.
How many eggs are there in the fridge?
Not very many.
There are only a few.
Shall I count them?
Yes, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 12... A dozen, but some of them are very small.
Shall we buy 4 dozen eggs?
We needn't buy so many. 2 dozen are enough.
What about the drinks? How much wine is there?
Very little.
How many bottles of wine have we got?
Only a few.
4 bottles.
Then we must buy another 20.
Isn't that too many? Not many people drink wine. I, for example, only drink whiskey and beer.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, madam, I do drink a lot of whiskey. Yesterday, for example, I drank very little wine, only half a bottle. But I drank a lot of whiskey.
Yes.
I like whiskey. I like beer too when I have a lot of work to do.
You drink too much, don't you?
Yes, and talk too much as well.
The butcher was a big man. They finished the shopping list and set off. First they went to the baker's to order the bread and cakes for the party. Joe wanted to go to the supermarket to buy the groceries, but Mrs. Lee didn't like supermarkets. She liked to talk to the shopkeepers. Supermarkets were too modern and impersonal for her, so they went to the grocer's. Mr. Blabber, the grocer, was very polite to his customers and liked to talk a lot. Mrs. Lee bought some coffee and tea, but didn't buy any sugar. In the shop they met Mrs. Bell. Mary Lee and Jane Bell were old friends. They talked for a long time in the shop. It was getting late. They went to the dairy. They didn't buy much there, only a little butter and some cheese. They ordered the milk for Friday. The butcher's shop wasn't far from the dairy. It was round the corner. Mrs. Lee bought some meat. Joe was very tired and very hungry and thirsty. He wanted to put some sausages in his pocket. He looked at the butcher. The butcher was a big man. His face was red and he was very strong. He didn't like Joe, but he was very polite to Mrs. Lee. Joe waited for the butcher to look the other way, but he didn't. Joe slowly put his hand on the counter, but the butcher kept an eye on him, and he looked very angry. Joe was very hungry, but he was no fool, so he didn't do anything.